Friends, today we are going to share with you the incredible story of a soldier whose life took a shocking and mysterious turn. How did a brave soldier's stomach become abnormally swollen as if he were pregnant? And what was the secret behind this unbelievable situation? To find out the full story, make sure to read till the very end. If you enjoy the story, don't forget to leave a like and share it with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon for more amazing stories. Now, let's dive right into it. The storm was raging over Fort Brant, Texas, turning the small military town into a battlefield of lightning and pounding rain. Inside Liberty Bay Medical Center, the fluorescent lights flickered slightly as thunder rattled the windows. Dr. Arthur Hayes, a seasoned obstetrician in his early 40s, was finishing up his evening paperwork, relishing a rare moment of peace when a frantic shout tore through the calm, "Somebody help us, please." The urgency in the voice made every head in the emergency department snap up. Dr. Hayes barely had time to throw on his white coat. His sneakers squeaked against the slick hospital floor as he sprinted toward the entrance. Rounding the corner, he skidded to a halt, eyes widening at the surreal scene before him. Two soldiers stood just inside the doors, soaked to the bone, one leaning heavily against the other. The younger one, no older than 25, was barely able to stand, hunched over with his arms wrapped protectively around a stomach so grotesquely distended that Dr. Hayes thought for a moment he was hallucinating. The soldier's camouflage uniform clung to his frame, emphasizing the horrifying roundness of his abdomen. It looked not just swollen, but ripe, as if he were a woman at full term, moments from giving birth. The doctor's mouth fell open. "What the hell?" he whispered. The soldier supporting him, slightly older, his face lined with worry, caught Dr. Hayes' eyes. "Doctor, please. His name's Jamie Miller. He's been like this for months, but today the pain got out of control. He can barely move." Dr. Hayes shook off his shock and sprang into action. "Get a stretcher over here now," he barked at the nearby nurses who were frozen in stunned silence. While the stretcher was fetched, Dr. Hayes crouched beside Jamie, careful not to frighten him further. "Son, tell me what's happening. Where's the pain?" Jamie's face was drenched in sweat, his skin as pale as the hospital walls. His hands clutched his stomach tightly as he gasped, "Here, inside. It's tearing me apart, sir. Please, make it stop." Nurses finally arrived with the stretcher, and with Liam's help, the soldier holding him, they carefully eased Jamie onto it. His every movement sent ripples across his distended belly. And Dr. Hayes noticed something that made his blood run cold. Something inside was shifting. Moving. The doctor pressed gently on one side of Jamie's abdomen. There, a nudge, a push from inside. It was impossible. It was undeniable. He stood up sharply, struggling to keep his voice steady. "There's something living inside him," he said, more to himself than anyone else. Liam nodded desperately. "I told him to see someone months ago, document. I begged him. But Jamie, he thought it was nothing. We thought maybe some weird swelling from jungle fever or something. Not this." Dr. Hayes shook his head. He delivered hundreds of babies in his career. He knew the feeling of life inside a womb, but never in a male body. Fighting to stay composed, he asked the question he had never thought he would ask in his life. "Jamie, listen carefully. Were you by any chance born female?" Liam immediately stiffened. "What? No, sir. No way. We've served together for years. Showers, locker rooms. He's a guy. 100%. Jamie's lips trembled as he forced out, "He's right, sir. I'm a man. Always have been." The doctor's mind raced with possibilities. Hormonal abnormalities, rare medical anomalies, but none of them could explain the way Jamie's stomach moved or the very real signs of labor setting in. "We need to do an ultrasound immediately," Dr. Hayes said, voice clipped with urgency. He nodded to the nurses who began wheeling Jamie down the hall as fast as they dared. Jamie moaned with every bump of the stretcher. Liam jogged alongside, pale and shaken, still trying to grasp what was happening. The hallway seemed endless, and even the hospital's bright lights couldn't chase away the feeling of dread curling in Dr. Hayes' gut. This wasn't just a freak medical case. This felt wrong, impossible, terrifying. Inside the dim ultrasound room, everything smelled sterile, disinfectant and cold gel. Dr. Hayes squeezed a generous amount of gel onto Jamie's trembling stomach, the soldier flinching at the icy contact. He took a deep breath, pressed the probe against the flesh, and the screen flickered to life. At first, there was only static black and white fuzz. But then, unmistakably, the outline of two small bodies appeared. Two tiny spines, two tiny beating hearts. Dr. Hayes stumbled backward, nearly knocking over the tray of instruments behind him. "Jesus Christ," he breathed. Liam, seeing the screen, clutched the side of the stretcher. "What? What is that? Tell me that's not." "They're babies," Dr. Hayes said, voice hollow. "Twins. Jamie is carrying twins." The room spun. Liam staggered back a step, covering his mouth with his hand. Jamie's body shook violently as a fresh wave of pain overtook him. "No," he cried. "No, this can't be. This isn't happening." But his body betrayed him. A sharp cramp racked his abdomen, and suddenly a gush of pale fluid streamed from the edge of the stretcher, pooling on the floor. Dr. Hayes didn't hesitate. His instincts took over. His water just broke. "He's going into labor." The nurses sprang into action. "Get him to delivery now." Chairs and carts clattered as they made way for the stretcher. Jamie, gasping, delirious, kept muttering, "I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to be pregnant," but there was no stopping it now. As they rushed down the halls, chaos following in their wake, Dr. Hayes could not stop the single terrifying thought that repeated in his mind: how is any of this possible? And yet, even with all the insanity breaking loose around them, none of them, not Jamie, not Liam, not even Dr. Hayes, had any idea that this was only the beginning, that hidden within this impossible pregnancy was a secret so dark, so deeply buried that it would shake everything they thought they knew to its core. The storm outside raged louder, thunder cracking so hard it rattled the windows of the delivery room. But inside the hospital, another storm, quieter, more insidious, had just begun. Jamie's cries echoed down the hospital corridor as the nurses wheeled him into the delivery ward. The fluorescent lights overhead blurred into streaks as Liam ran beside him, gripping the edge of the stretcher like his own life depended on it. Dr. Hayes shouted rapid-fire orders to the medical staff who scrambled into action, their faces pale with confusion and fear. Inside the delivery room, the air was thick with panic. Jamie was panting heavily, his face soaked in sweat, his hands gripping the sides of the stretcher with white-knuckled force. Every few seconds, his entire body convulsed with a fresh wave of pain. Dr. Hayes pulled on a fresh pair of gloves, grabbed the emergency kit, and assessed the situation. Jamie's abdomen was stretched to a terrifying size, the outline of movement visible just beneath his taut skin. It was like something out of a nightmare. And yet, it was happening right in front of them. "We need to deliver immediately," Dr. Hayes said, exchanging a grave look with the anesthesiologist. "But how?" one of the nurses whispered in terror. He's not. There's no. I know." Hayes cut her off sharply. "But biology doesn't care what we think. We have to act." Jamie groaned again, a low, guttural sound of pure agony. "Doctor, please, make it stop," he gasped. Dr. Hayes approached his bedside, voice calm but firm. "Jamie, listen to me. You're going into labor. We have to get the babies out safely. I need you to trust me." Jamie shook his head wildly, tears leaking from his tightly shut eyes. I can't. This isn't real." Liam, standing helplessly near the doorway, couldn't bear it anymore. He rushed to the bedside, grabbing Jamie's trembling hand. "You're strong, man. You can do this. Just hang on. We'll figure this out later," he said, voice cracking. Jamie squeezed his hand so hard Liam thought his bones would break. Dr. Hayes examined the situation quickly. Natural delivery seemed impossible for a male body. There was no anatomical passage. Only one option remained. "We're doing an emergency C-section," he declared. The medical team nodded in grim agreement. They began preparing the instruments, sterilizing the area, and setting up the drapes around Jamie's midsection. But just as Hayes reached for the scalpel, Jamie's voice broke through the chaos. "No, no, don't cut me, please." He thrashed on the bed, sheer terror in his eyes. "Jamie, it's the only way," Hayes said gently. "There's no other path." But Jamie shook his head frantically, struggling to lift himself. I'll deliver naturally," he stammered. The entire room froze. Liam blinked in confusion. "How, bro? How?" Dr. Hayes exchanged a puzzled look with the anesthesiologist. It was impossible. There was no. But then Jamie did something no one expected. He reached down and began tugging off his army-issued pants. Despite the pain, despite the chaos. "Jamie, stop!" Liam yelled, stepping forward. But it was too late. As Jamie kicked away the fabric, the terrible, unbelievable truth was revealed. There, clearly, unmistakably, was not the anatomy of a typical male. There, in place of what should have been male genitals, was something else. Something hidden, something secret, a scarred, partially concealed structure. Not fully male, not fully female, but enough for Dr. Hayes to understand in an instant. Jamie wasn't just some medical mystery. Jamie had been hiding something his entire life, an intersex condition that meant he possessed a partially formed vaginal canal. Dr. Hayes reeled, gripping the table for balance. He turned to the team, voice low and urgent. "He has a cloacal anomaly, a rare intersex condition. It's possible he's capable of vaginal delivery." Gasps filled the room. Jamie, his body racked with tremors, sobbed. "I didn't want anyone to know. Please, doctor, let me do it naturally. I don't want surgery." Hayes hesitated for only a second. Then he nodded. "All right, we'll help you. You can do this." Quickly, they adjusted the setup. The nurses shifted positions, prepared for a natural birth they had never expected. Liam stood at Jamie's head, gripping his friend's hand tightly, his mind spinning. This was the person he had trusted with his life, a brother, a fellow soldier. Now everything he thought he knew was crumbling, but none of it mattered. Jamie needed him now more than ever. "All right, Jamie," Dr. Hayes said, voice clear and commanding, "push when you feel the urge. We'll guide you." The first contraction hit like a freight train. Jamie screamed. A sound so raw and powerful it rattled the windows. Liam squeezed his hand, murmuring encouragement. "You're doing great, man. You're doing great." Tears streamed down Jamie's face. His legs shook with strain. Sweat soaked through the hospital gown. He bore down again, face contorted in pain. Minutes felt like hours. Every push was a battle against a body that was never meant to do this. But somehow Jamie's will was stronger. After an eternity, Dr. Hayes's voice cut through the madness. "I see the head. Jamie, you're almost there. Keep going." Jamie cried out, a deep, primal sound that seemed to come from the very center of his being. With one final agonizing push, a loud, high-pitched wail filled the room. A baby. A tiny, crying, living baby. The nurses rushed to swaddle the newborn, clearing its airways, checking its vitals. Liam was sobbing openly now, unable to believe what he was witnessing. But it wasn't over. "Jamie," Dr. Hayes said urgently. There's another one. Twins. You have to push again. Jamie let out a broken laugh somewhere between exhaustion and delirium. Of course there's two, he muttered through gritted teeth. The second birth was faster, the body already exhausted, muscles stretched beyond limit. One more scream. One more desperate push. And the second baby slid into the doctor's waiting hands. 2 lives, 2 miracles, 2 impossible, undeniable proofs that nothing in this world was truly impossible. Jamie collapsed against the bed, utterly spent, barely conscious. Liam stroked his friend's damp hair, whispering over and over, "You did it. You did it. You did it, brother." Dr. Hayes gently placed both newborns on Jamie's chest, wrapped tightly in warm blankets. For the first time that night, Jamie smiled, a fragile, broken, beautiful smile as he looked down at the 2 tiny faces nuzzling against him. But even as the room buzzed with relief and awe, another emotion hovered in the air, dread. Because beneath the miracle, the question still burned unanswered: how had this happened? What secrets was Jamie still hiding? And what dangers were still out there waiting? The door to the delivery room creaked open slowly, and a shadowy figure stepped inside. Liam tensed immediately, his instincts screaming. The story was far from over. In fact, the darkest part was just about to begin. The room fell silent as the shadowy figure stepped fully into the light. Liam's blood ran cold. It was Jamie, but not the Jamie lying broken on the bed, cradling 2 newborns. It was another Jamie. Same face, same height, same everything. Except this one was wearing civilian clothes, his frame thin and bruised, a healing scar running down the side of his forehead. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. The Jamie on the stretcher, the one holding the babies, looked up with wide, tear-filled eyes. "Brother," he whispered. The man in the doorway, the real Christian Walker, took a shaky step forward. His voice was rough but steady. "Where's my sister?" Liam's head spun. "Sister? What? What's going on?" Christian, the real one, turned to him, pain and fury flashing across his battered face. "That's not me, Liam. That's my twin sister, Christine Miller." Liam staggered back as if slapped. "Sister? Twin sister?" Everything snapped into focus at once. The secret glances, the inconsistencies, the way Jamie, no, Christine, moved, the way she carried herself. It all made a horrible, heartbreaking kind of sense. Before anyone could react further, the door slammed open again. 2 figures burst in, Major Thorne and Sergeant Briggs, their faces red with rage and panic. "There!" Thorne bellowed, pointing at Christine. "Grab her. Take her away." But Dr. Hayes stepped between them and the hospital bed, his arms outstretched protectively. "You're not laying a finger on my patient," he said coldly. Thorne sneered. "She's not a patient. She's a fraud. She's a human being." Dr. Hayes snapped back. Liam, meanwhile, positioned himself between Christine and the furious officers, fists clenched. "You're not taking her anywhere," he growled. Briggs reached for his belt where his pistol should have been, but he found nothing. His face twisted in confusion. At that moment, the real Christian Walker, the one still standing by the door, lifted something into the air. A flash drive. His voice rang clear across the room. "This has everything. Every wire transfer, every falsified order, every theft you ever committed against the army." Major Thorne froze. "You're lying," he hissed. Christian smiled grimly. "Try me." Liam's heart pounded as realization washed over him. It had never been about the pregnancy. It had never even been about the babies. It was about justice. Christine had disguised herself as her twin brother, Jamie, to stay behind on the base after Thorne and Briggs tried to kill Christian. She had infiltrated the heart of the corruption herself, risking everything, even as a secret pregnancy grew inside her. And now, with the proof in hand, the trap had been sprung. "You're finished," Christian said, voice hard as steel. "The police are already on their way. You're going to answer for everything you did." The hospital was buzzing now. Doctors, nurses, even security guards gathering in the hallway as sirens wailed in the distance. Thorne lunged forward in a last desperate move. But Liam was faster. With a clean, trained punch, Liam knocked the major backward into the arms of two hospital security officers who immediately tackled him to the ground. Sergeant Briggs raised his hands in surrender without a fight. Within minutes, both corrupt officers were handcuffed and led away, screaming threats that no one listened to anymore. In the delivery room, the air finally shifted. Relief. Freedom. Victory. Christian crossed the room, dropping to his knees beside the bed. He reached out carefully, touching Christine's trembling hand. "You're safe now," he whispered. Christine smiled weakly, tears streaming down her face. "You are too." Liam leaned down, smiling through his own tears, brushing a tiny blanket off the face of one of the newborns. "They're beautiful," he said. Christine nodded, her voice shaking. "I did it for them. For my brother. For all of us." Outside, the rain finally began to slow, the dark clouds breaking apart as the first rays of dawn pierced through. It wasn't just a new day for Fort Brant. It was a new beginning. Days later, the entire base knew the truth. Thorne and Briggs faced federal charges for corruption, attempted murder, and conspiracy. The Miller twins were hailed as heroes, their stories spreading like wildfire across the nation. Christian, once just another soldier, was promoted to captain for his bravery and quick thinking in exposing the truth. Christine, after recovering from childbirth, received an honorable discharge, but also something even better, a second chance at life. Free to raise her children proudly, openly, without fear. Liam stayed close to them both, a true brother in arms and in heart. As for the two tiny miracles born under impossible circumstances, they grew up knowing that their very existence had helped expose injustice and bring light into a place once filled with darkness. And every year on the night of that great storm, Christian and Christine would sit side by side, watching the skies, holding their families close, and remembering the night that changed everything. A night of fear, a night of pain, a night of courage, and ultimately a night of love stronger than any storm. What would you have done in her position? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Has someone ever underestimated you because of how you looked, only to be utterly shocked by your true strength or abilities? We'd love to hear your stories of respect earned the hard way. If Christine's incredible courage and sacrifice inspired you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of everyday heroes standing their ground and bringing light to the darkness. Because respect isn't given, it's earned, sometimes in the most unexpected ways, and true justice always finds a way to prevail.